Slani everybody, I am Corvus Bruxo Luggenikos and this is Starry Night Solitary. I'm sorry that I didn't upload a video on Wednesday. I had a lot of troubles, including that I cut my finger with a super rusty piece of metal and I was in urgent care half of the day waiting for them to tell me if I needed a shot or something to avoid an infection. So this week's topic is when spells fail, why they fail and what can we do. Spells failing is something that every witch knows. In my opinion, a couple of things can be the reason that it fails. Intent, ingredients, spirits. If you're not focused, herbs are only herbs and ingredients are only ingredients and words are only words. Intent is what, in many occasions, not always, wakes up the spirit in the ingredients that we use and in the words that we pronounce. So if you're not in the correct state of mind, your spell may just be a nice poem. In the second case, is something that happens a lot, in my experience at least. We can't, since we don't follow the local traditions of magic or witchcraft or pagan lore of election, as it happened before, we usually don't necessarily have a relationship with our own environment, which in my opinion is vital, but not everybody follows that. That means that not every time we have access to certain plants, bones of animals, etc. In which case, we many times substitute them. And in which case, we should be careful because sometimes the substitution isn't as powerful and juicy as the original is for different reasons. It's not because it's a substitute, it's because sometimes, well, for example, in my case, a spell failed because I was summoning the energy and presence of a god, to which the original plant used in the spell was sacred to that god, and I couldn't get my hands on that plant. So I used a plant with similar attributes, physically, spiritually, etc. But that substitution wasn't sacred to the god. So I had an epic fail on that spell. And the third reason is spirits. Sometimes you have to check on the gods, spirits, familiars, demons, or whatsoever that you're invoking or summoning in your spell to get aid to know why it failed. Maybe you were doing something that wasn't in your contract with that spirit, or that was against the nature of a particular god. And I'm separating spirits and gods because of the level of power. In my opinion, spirits do work while gods aid in their own field of power. And sometimes due to something that may seem into the field of power of that god, but it is against their nature. Because, in my opinion, I'm a hard polytheist, gods are not just metaphors or representations of forces of nature. They are linked to forces of nature, but have their own personality, interests, etc. And sometimes if you do something against their own benefit or their own nature or character, maybe they simply just not let your spell work. And since it doesn't mean that you can't do a spell against a god's will, it's not like the gods are 100% of the time watching at what you do, but if you're calling on them and relying the outcome of the spell on them, then they can do the spell fail. So in this case, check out your gods, check out the spirits that you asked for aid or for doing the work that you was intending to do, with whatever method that you use for that, like trance, oracles, any kind of mancy, and check out if maybe they did the spell fail for some reason. Take account of the reason, and if you can correct that reason, then correct it. And yeah, those are the reasons that I think a spell may fail and why, and how can we correct them. So tell us what you think in the comments down below, and we'll see each other next week. Bye!